Well, with that, we want to bring into the program right now Rupert Colville. He's a spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and he joins us right now in Geneva, Switzerland. Mr. Colville, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Michael.
I first want to begin here with your reaction to that deadly explosion, the twin bomb attacks in Kabul yesterday.
It's utterly horrendous. This was clearly calculated to kill as many people as possible, right in the middle of crowds of families, two bombs around half an hour apart, and it seems also some gunmen shooting as well. All that remains to be confirmed, but very calculated to kill as many civilians and also, of course, the American troops guarding the airport. So truly horrific attack.
Mm-hmm. And as we say, ISIS in the region is claiming responsibility for one of those attacks, one of those bombings. But of course, the Taliban has also been under close scrutiny ever since the fall of Kabul, interfering with people trying to get out of the country right now. And the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights warning the Taliban that the mistreatment of women and girls is a, quote, fundamental red line that should not be crossed. What have you heard about the treatment of women and girls in Afghanistan?
It's a very patchy picture. The Taliban have, issued public reassurances that they will allow women to go back to work, they will allow girls to go to school, but then they caveat it with, saying that's within their interpretation of Sharia. And what we're hearing across the country is, as I said, a bit patchy. I mean, in places, international aid agencies, UN agencies, and so on, are having their women staff back in the offices. But I think not everywhere, and I think it's a bit the same with the schools. Some girls are back in schools and not facing major problems, but it's hard to get a total picture across the country.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about
the fear. I mean, I think one should add that the fear is, of course, huge among women. And when the High Commissioner talked about this red line, she was talking about education, all rights, obviously, education, health, and so on. But with education, we're not just talking primary education, we're talking secondary education, university education, because women did gain a lot of rights over the past 20 years, and we really don't want to see it go back to square one.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually been noted as well, many women have not known the Taliban, being young women who have been educated and are now very worried. But, it's also beyond the treatment of women and girls that people are concerned about right now. So I'm wondering what other forms of violations, alleged violations, are you now hearing about?
Well, there's a bit of a time lag here because before the fall of Kabul, we were hearing of some pretty serious incidents in some areas. Again, I stress only some areas that the Taliban had captured, particularly in the province called Ghazni, also in Spin Boldak. We were hearing of summary executions especially of sort of soldiers who'd surrendered or been captured. Also some killings of civilians as well. One example was a report of a man and a woman who were basically trying to run away, who was shot. So there were these, but these were from kind of July and late June as this big advance unrolled across Afghanistan. Since the fall of Kabul, it's been so hard to verify reports. We are hearing reports, of course, but the actual verification, and one does have to be very careful with Afghanistan. You get a lot of rumors, you get a lot of incorrect information, which sounds convincing and then turns out not to be. So it's very difficult at the moment to really pin down what's going on. But we're not hearing terribly alarming things for the time being in general.
Okay. Interesting, because we did hear from the Afghan ambassador in Geneva, Dr. Nasir Ahmed, and he said that we are watching a humanitarian crisis unfold in Afghanistan. Given the chaos on the ground, I'm wondering, what can human rights organizations do right now to protect people? Again, given the chaos, given the fact that so many Western countries are pulling out.
Well, I think that's an incredibly important question. I mean, human rights are one thing. Of course, having access to food, water, health, so on is also part of human rights. And the humanitarian aid effort is going to be more needed than ever. Now, the agencies, I've been on calls with colleagues from UNICEF, WHO, World Food Programme, and so on. They are managing to function in many places. They have many sort of satellite offices around the country, and they are managing to function. But, and it's a big but, for example, for the World Food Programme, They're getting food into the country, they're managing to distribute. But at this time of year, it's essential they build up huge stocks for winter. Winter in Afghanistan is really tough. And it's this sort of window in the autumn where they can build up the food stocks to carry it through the winter. And they're concerned that may be difficult. So I think the outside world needs to really step up and remember when we're talking about the ordinary Afghans, they've suffered immensely over the past 40 years from everything you can think of, from earthquakes to massacres to wars to droughts. And the needs are huge. And already half the population are believed to be in need of humanitarian aid. So it's going to need that outside support. And the Taliban understand that, and they've set up committees to work with some of the aid agencies.
Mr. Colville, thank you for this. Appreciate the time.